Microsoft portfolio and project management landscape that will be presented by Leire from Microsoft. Then myself, I'm going to be talking about Market 360 capabilities, and we're going to jump into the demo of portfolio project management. At the end, we're going to have a wrap-up session, so if you have any question, feel free to share with us. We're going to be more than happy to answer. Also, during all the session, if you have any question, please use the chat here in Teams that we're going to be monitoring, and we're going to be answering also your questions as well. Please, Leire, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here today. I know that January is a very busy month for most of us, so I appreciate that you took some time to join us. I am Leire Dozain, a specific part of the Modern Workplace team at Microsoft Netherlands. So basically, I take care of a very specific part of the portfolio, and that is Modern Work Management and Project on the one hand, and Power BI on the other hand, which is one of the pillars of our Power Platform. So for this first part, for Project, I am basically leading the Microsoft Project Online transformational engagement in enterprises across all industries in the Netherlands. So with a specific focus on advising and guiding the customers in making strategic choices to improve their business processes, business insights, and also collaboration on organizational level, team level, and individual level in projects. So I do all of this in collaboration with strategic Microsoft Project partners like Marquee 360 Day to Day. And I want to give the word to you, Juan and Neil, to also introduce yourself.
So this is Juan. I'm account executive, mainly focused on Europe region.
And hi, everybody. My name's Neil Alcott. I'm a senior solutions architect at Marquee 360. So my role is to work with customers like yourself, understand your requirements, and then build out a solution that best meets your needs using the Microsoft platform.
Talking about Market 360, we are a Microsoft Gold partner for cloud productivity, project, and portfolio management and collaboration. Our main locations are in the United States, Canada, and we are very excited with our new opening in Europe, in Barcelona. We are ex-Microsoft founders, so we have a strong relation with Microsoft product, with the field, and also with the strategic customers. We mainly focus in Microsoft 360 and Teams, Microsoft Work Management, and Power Platform. And our main focus are in customer success, Trust Advisor, and we work as an extended Microsoft solution. Now we are going to move into introducing the context of Microsoft and the vision. So Leire is going to take over from here.
Thank you very much, Juan. So I would like to start by giving a step back to those legacy project management tools for a minute, just for a minute, because there is a good chance that the data platforms you are using today are really, really good at making sense of just a few data points. In this case, in the slide, we can see an example for the case of an inventory management system, but of course, this could be also applied to any of your projects managed in your organization. So in this case, this might be include a forecast, an order, and shipments, but there is so much more to managing inventory, really to any large processes, than just all those three pieces. So what about individual tasks associated with proper forecasting? Or, I don't know, the collaboration required to coordinate shipments? Can you see customer relationship data to provide better service or easily access the right document, especially those not associated with forecast, orders, or shipments? So we see that most organizations are likely using other technology platforms for those, bringing us full circle to the next idea. People will choose their own tools to succeed, whether they are approved or not. And when all your data is spread all across a variety of platforms, you will probably struggle to make data-driven decisions because you won't have the big picture. So traditionally, all this data lived also in separate Microsoft systems too. So you would use Office for productivity, you would use Dynamics 365 to manage relationships, and Azure for tracking real-time data-intensive processes. This might sound actually like the things that we were lamenting earlier, right? The things that I was just mentioning. You have all this data, all these points spread across different solutions, except that Office, Dynamics, and Azure are all part of the Microsoft family, a highly secure, enterprise-grade platform. So still, we knew that we were in a unique position to do better. So we did, and it's called the Power Platform. So this Power Platform is built on Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate, formerly Flow, and the Power Platform brings together Office, Dynamics 365, and also Azure, so that you can have one integrated platform for using all your data more efficiently. And that now includes, of course, Project. So the new Project service is entirely built on the Power Platform. So not only is all your project data in one place, you get the added benefit also of project and portfolio reports through Power BI, also customer project management apps through Power Apps, and the ability to automate the mundane but necessary project task through Power Automate. So the Power Platform also allows us to integrate Project more closely with the Office for collaboration, also Dynamics 365 for relationship management, as I was mentioning, and Azure for complex data analysis. So in short, it's a connected work management, a work management platform that breathes new life into Project. So with all this, the idea that I would basically want you to remember in this first part of the webinar is that our goal with the new project service built on the Power Platform is to help teams, all the teams in the organization, work the way they want while giving enterprises the results they need. And with this, I would like to give the word back to Neil and Juan and wish you a happy webinar.
Thank you very much, Leire. So thanks for this introduction, Leire. We know now the context of Microsoft. So I want to share here that Market 360, we are constantly innovating with Microsoft, and we build apps around the Microsoft Portfolio Project Management Platform. We also support in any customization that your organization might need, and we also work on the integrations between those apps and also third-party solutions that you might be using as well. Today in the demo, we're gonna be moving and touching those points that we can see here. We're gonna start with the project intake, that is our ideation piece. Then we're gonna move to governance, and we're gonna be also jumping into the collaboration with teams. As we know nowadays, COVID-19 has pushed us to work remotely, so Teams is becoming very relevant. And we're gonna also be talking about resource management, time and cost tracking, and finally, how we can have this data visualized with using the Power BI, the different dashboards from Microsoft, and also sharing a little bit more about how those can be customized. Today, because of time limitation, we're not going to be able to talk about integration, but I want to share that we also organize one-to-one sessions. So in case you want to have a session with us and to touch those points specifically for your organization or some integration conversations, we're going to be more than happy to schedule. Saying that, I would like to introduce, to give the word to Neil and to move on with the demo.
There you go. Thanks, Juan. So one of the things we want to take a look at is, as Lyra mentioned, we're going to build a lot of this on top of the Power Platform. And that's a lot of the ways that we can do that digital transformation by integrating the different services together and automating a lot of the different capabilities. But when we talk about project management, portfolio management, let's take a couple minutes just to go over the Microsoft project family real quick, what the current state is, and then what the future state's going to be. So currently, you have primarily 3 products that are in the project management family. You have Planner, which is really the meant for light project management. It gives a very simple user interface where individuals can know what they're supposed to be working on, track the status, organize those tasks, things like that. But again, it's meant for light task management, light project management. But again, simple user interface, integrates with Teams very easily, can be a very nice tool for depending on what you're trying to do with your projects. Next up, we have what we call the occasional project manager or the informal project manager. That's what's considered a Plan 1 license, and you'll hear that referred to as Project for the Web. So Project for the Web is the new modern service that Microsoft's been building out. It's been released, I guess, a little over a year now, and it'll be constantly evolving over the next few years. What's intriguing with it is built on top of the Power Platform. So as we mentioned earlier, that's really the core foundation for a lot of the Microsoft services going forward. And what that means for you as a business is you can easily extend that, automate functions, automate your processes, or interconnect and integrate with other services, other data sources. Now, keep in mind, it is evolving. So the current version of that is more geared towards schedule management, but eventually it'll add more enterprise, portfolio management capabilities like resource management, cost tracking, things like that. The other tool that's been around for, I guess, 20 years now is Project Online, Project Server. That's your Plan 3, your Plan 5 licenses. So currently, if you're really looking for a full-blown enterprise solution, you may be looking at Project Online and its capabilities. It does provide a whole host of capabilities that aren't in Project for the Web today, but they will be in a couple years. So can we go to the next slide real quick? So as we're talking about that future state, you're going to see Project for the Web continue to expand and then incorporate the capabilities that you may find in Project Online today. And again, because it's built on the Power Platform, that gives you a lot of advantages as an organization, because you can tailor the way projects will be managed specifically the way you want to run those processes, or if you need to interact with other systems, integrate with other tools. Very extensible, very open, and not necessarily requiring a developer to build those solutions, right? So the heart of the Power Platform is citizen developers, as we like to call them. Power users can go in and they can create automations, they can create Power Apps, they can create reports on their own without involving more hardcore IT developer types. Okay. So with that, as you saw the agenda, I actually have a lot to demo in a short amount of time. So let's get started. And as I touch on these individual items, I will be going somewhat quickly because of time, but we will have additional webinars scheduled to do deeper dives into each one of these topics. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start with project intake. So again, everything I'm going to be showing you today is just examples of how we can do digital transformation with the Power Platform. All right. So when we talk about project intake, I'm going to use a Power App to collect or allow someone to submit a request for a new project, use Power Automate to route it through an approval process. And then I'm even going to use Power Automate to then integrate the project with Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Planner, and I'll go through a demo of all that. And then we're going to touch on Power BI as well and the reporting inside of Power BI. So I'm going to go ahead and click on New Request here. I'm just kicking off this Power App. This could be started from any SharePoint page, any web page, could also be on your phone, could be on your iPad or your tablet. Power Apps allows you to build for any of those devices. And as you can see, you can create pretty robust forms. So in this case, I have a project work request form. And what I'm going to do is create a request, and it's going to be for Project for the Web. I'm going to specify who the project sponsor is. And then here, this is a good example of how you could do that digital transformation, right? So as someone's filling out the request, we could have different request types set up where we want to basically standardize how those projects are going to be managed or how those project types are going to be managed. Okay, so when I go into here, you can see things like an individual project. Well, maybe for my organization, individual project means I want to use project for the web for those types of projects to start with. A marketing campaign. Maybe I don't really need project for the web or project online for the marketing campaign. I just need a planner plan and a Microsoft team for that. An IT project might be more formalized and more of the enterprise PMO type scenario. So maybe I want to use project online for that. So again, you can use this Power App and Power Automate to route that request, not just through approvals, but also how do we want to set that up so that we can make sure the organization's standardizing on those particular request types. So in this case, I'm just going to say individual project. And I can fill out the rest of this form. I'm just going to put some dummy text in here. But you can see, we have...
Neil, there is a question in the chat. Danny is asking if you can re-show where do you click for the project request?
Yeah, so in my demo environment, I just have a link on a SharePoint page that's opening that. But keep in mind, this is something that's built for demo purposes. It's not something that's kind of out of the box. You would have to build the Power App, build that form, and then the automation that would go along with that. So there's not any particular place you would necessarily click on. Depends on what you build.
And there is a follow-up question asking, is this a project online or a project for the web?
I'm going to do demonstrations of both.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And we could even do things like this where maybe I want to have a scoring mechanism. So as the request is coming through, I'm going to ask the requester some questions for them to answer. And depending on what they answer, it'll give me a better idea of how to score that request. Is it something that better aligns with our organization, or is it something that doesn't align? Maybe it's a pet project, for example. So in a case like that, you'd be able to quickly filter out the ones that don't align very well and not necessarily have to take action on those. So I'm just going to go ahead and submit that. And and here you can see I'm saving it to a SharePoint list, but with Power Apps and the Power Platform, you could also save it to the Common Data Service, or the Dataverse, as they've rebranded it. That's a web-based database. But with the Power Platform, you can save it to any database, really. In my case, I'm just saving it to a SharePoint list. Now, what I'm going to do here, I pre-staged some of this because of the lack of time. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go into my email, and you can see these are some of the emails that I've submitted, some of the requests that I submitted earlier today. So you can see here when a request comes through in the email with Power Automate, you could actually put into the email some of the content that was placed in that form. That way, the person that might have to review it, maybe you can give them enough information so they could just look at it right here and then go ahead and approve it without having to actually open up the form. Now, there is a link here that would take me to that form as well. So if I wanted to look at other information, it might not be displayed here. And then simply down here, I could either approve or reject. A lot of our customers will also have a third button for need more information, or sometimes a fourth button to reroute it to another person to approve. But I can go in, I can put in some comments, and then when I submit, it's going to go ahead and create that project depending on the request type that I specified. In this particular request, it was for project for the web. So it's going to automatically create a project for the web project. It's also going to create a Microsoft team that's associated with that project for the web project. So we should see that in a few seconds. That'll pop up. The other one that I submitted is for project online. So I want to give you an example with both of the tools. So same idea here. We're going to go ahead and approve this. Put in my comments. And submit it. And then here you can see there's the email for the one that I just created. Okay. So as we're going through this, let's go back to Project for the Web and Project Online. So with Project for the Web, if you go to your waffle menu and you click on Project, it's going to bring you here to what's called the project homepage. And with this, normally you could just go in, create new blank project, and it'll start what it says, a blank project where you can start building out your tasks. So this is an example of Project for the Web. So if I give it a name, and then I could say who the PM is and what the start date of the project is. And then I could start building out my task. Now with that project intake process, because I automated all of this, if I go back to Teams, and it looks like it hasn't shown up yet. So as soon as this gets created, I'll come back to it. We'll keep moving for now. But essentially, Project for the Web will be baked into that Microsoft team as a tab. So you'd be able to set up your project schedule and allow your project team members to be able to see it. So in this case, for Project for the Web, I can just go here in my web interface, start building out my project schedule. As you can see, I'm building this out in my web browser. It's a modern interface. If I want to go in and make some of these subtasks so I can have my different phases outlined and organize my schedule this way, I can do that. I can also go in, start specifying who it's going to be assigned to. This is one of the big differences between Project Online and Project for the Web. Project Online, you maintain a resource pool that you have to add people to that. Whereas with Project for the Web, anybody who is anybody who's in your Active Directory essentially could be a resource. So you don't necessarily have to maintain that resource pool. The overall organization is the resource pool, and then you can just simply add people. So as I'm adding people, underneath here, it is doing some things like adding people to an Office 365 group, so your security's automatically being maintained as you're adding people. And then here you can also go in and add additional columns. So maybe I want to add my start date, my finish date, my percent complete.
Sorry, Neil, we have a comment from Ennis mentioning that from the understanding is that you use an intake form from SharePoint, which is route to the approval and then built in Project Online or Web. Is that correct?
Correct. So the form is Power Apps. It's visible inside of a SharePoint page, but we're using the Power Platform to do that. So it's a Power Apps form. Okay. And I'm going to go into here. I'm just going to put in some durations on these tasks. I'm not going to put resources on all of these, but you get the idea. You can see it's automatically calculating the schedule. Now, what's nice with this too is I could also have Kanban board view of these schedules or these tasks. So if I go into here, maybe I want to make this my backlog. This will be sprint 1, sprint 2. And then I can drag and drop and organize the task however I want to organize these. These are similar to the buckets that you would see in Microsoft Planner. And then when we go to the timeline view, this will give you more of the Gantt schedule view. And if I want to link these tasks together, I can just go ahead and grab them, link them. I could also go in and change the duration of these tasks. So for example, if I want this to go to the end of that week, I can just grab it, If I want to reschedule this by a few days, I can just grab it, move it. So again, pretty robust, modern interface to manage your project schedule. Pretty easy to use. Again, it's really good for individual project managers currently, but we can extend this. Now, one of the things when we talk about extending this is Project for the Web is built on top of the Power Platform. And you keep hearing us talk about the Power Platform. So again, the Power Platform allows us to leverage Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI with this. So for example, what you're seeing right now is pretty much the out-of-the-box experience for Project for the Web. But if you want to have more of a, maybe like a PMO type view of this, you could have a Power App. So for example, here, I'm going to open this up. This is an example of what they call model-driven Power App. And when I go into here, I can then see all my different projects. And I could even do things like, graphical indicators. And if I drill into any of these, so for example, if I refresh this page, down here, you can see there's our projects that we just created for the demo today. So if I go in and I click on this one, now I'm going into the details of that particular project. And you can see things like we can have a governance workflow up at the top here to show what phases it's currently in. That's functionality from the Power Platform. And then each of these tabs holds information about that particular project. So when I go into here, you can see there's that project schedule that I was just building over in Project for the Web in the out-of-the-box interface. But here it's integrated inside this Power App. And then I could also manage things like action items, issues, risks, change requests. So you could extend this with other capabilities all through the Power Platform. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. What I'm going to do, and just to show you here, I can go to those other views as well. Okay, going back to Teams, let's see if it caught up with us. Yeah, so there you can see it created the Project Online one. So the Project for the Web one got hung up for some reason. I'll have to troubleshoot that. But let's go back to Project Online real quick.
We have a new question from William. He's asking if all of this is standard or standard functionalities or is customized.
So all of this is part of the Power Platform service. You have to build some of it. So it's not necessarily coding, it's building the forms, building the automation behind it. But it's really tailored specifically to what your requirements are. But it's not coding. So I want to be careful. Let's say it's not customization in that regard. It's more of configuration of the Power Platform that you're seeing. Okay. All right, so let me go into the Project Center here. So what we're looking at here is Project Online, okay? So again, when we looked at that overall functionality, we had Planner, which we haven't looked at yet, but we will in a minute. We had Project for the Web, which we just looked at, and we extended that with the Power Platform. And then we also have Project Online. The difference between Project for the Web, Project Online has been around a lot longer. It has a lot of enterprise PPM capabilities currently, whereas Project for the Web is evolving. So eventually it will also have a lot of the functionality that you're currently seeing. So what I'm going to do here is go into the Project Center. And again, that request came through our intake to create a Project Online project for an IT project. That was the request type that I picked for this. So when I'm in the Project Center, this has given us that portfolio view of all the projects that we currently have. And you can see things like graphical indicators, let us know how the schedule or the overall health of the project's going. But as I go down here, you can see there's our project that we had requested. So it's automatically created that project over in Project Online. So when I open this up, you'll now see some of the details of this particular project type in Project Online. Now, there's a lot of functionality here that I'm not going to have time to demo, but one of the things you're seeing here is a governance workflow. So similar to what you saw back here, we're up top here, we have the ability to track what phase and what are the requirements for each of those phase. Project Online has similar functionality, and that's basically what you're seeing here. But if I go down to the project schedule, because I selected the IT project request type, you can see it's pre-populated here with a schedule template with generic resources or roles already pre-assigned. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and staff my project. So I'm going to go to build a team. So this is another area where Project for the Web and Project Online are a little bit different. With Project for the Web, your overall organization is your resource pool, right? So it doesn't have to be maintained. You can just grab anybody who has an Active Directory account. Whereas in Project Online, there is a resource pool that an administrator would maintain. And that's basically what you're seeing over here on the left-hand side. So if I go into here and I want to staff my project, on the right-hand side, I see the roles currently in my project. But if I pick analyst and I'm not sure who all the analysts are, I could click on match and it'll filter my resources down to people that match that particular role or skill set. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select Topeka. If I wanted to see what she's working on, I can click on resource assignments. It'll show me across all the projects what she's working on. If I click on capacity planning, it'll give me a visualization of what her workload's looking like. And if I look at all that and I feel, yeah, she has enough time to work on this project, I can just go ahead and hit replace, and it's going to swap out the analyst role for Topeka. And then I could go ahead and do the same for some of these other roles. So I'm going to pick Mahesh, and then I'll be the PM. So when we go back to the project schedule here, you will see that it's swapped out those roles for the actual named resource from the resource pool. So if I go into here, I'm going to edit it in the browser. With Project Online, if you do prefer using the Microsoft Project desktop app, you could also edit the schedule in the desktop app. So when I go into here, I edit the schedule, you could then see it swapped out my named resources for the actual resources. So with the Teams integration that Power Automate's doing in the background, when I save this project and publish it, it's going to automatically add these resources to my Microsoft team. The other thing that I can do with Power Automate is I have this planner sync column. So if I want to synchronize these tasks over to Planner, again, the reason I might want to do this is Planner is just a very simple, lightweight interface. And if Teams is the primary interface we go to on a daily basis to collaborate on things, I want to make sure these tasks are showing up there in Teams as well in a very simple, user interface. So here I'm just going to go ahead and say yes to these tasks. And then I can also specify which planner bucket do I want them to go into. In this case, I'm going to reflect a kind of a light agile type way of managing the projects over in the planner. But these buckets could be anything that you would like to name them. A lot of our customers will use team names or maybe different work streams, things like that. Okay, so when I get done making my changes to the schedule here, I'm going to go ahead and publish it. And basically what that's going to do is a couple things. It's going to add these individuals to the Microsoft team automatically. And it's also going to set up the planner plan with these tasks synchronized to that. Now, one other thing while we're in the project interface is if I go to the business case page here, we should see that the information that I had filled out in that form is also pre-populated here. Okay, so that's an example of information was put into the project intake through that Power App. Power Automate can then grab that, and when it's creating the project and project online or project for the web, it's pre-populating those fields. So nobody's having to re-enter information or anything else like that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and check this in, and then let's go over into Teams, and we'll take a look at what got set up in Teams automatically. So over here, you can see it created our Microsoft team. If I click on the general channel, when it set up that Microsoft team, it also automatically set up some different tabs to show either, project for the web or project online information. So if our project team is collaborating here, they don't have to go to those two different services. They could stay right here inside of Teams and collaborate and look up what they're supposed to be working on. So you'll see here we have schedule tab, project documents, issues, risk, and a planner tab. These were all added as part of our automation through Power Automate. So if I go here, click on the schedule, this is that same schedule we were just looking at. Okay, so again, if I'm the PM, that means I can now edit the schedule right here inside of Microsoft Teams. I could also open it up in the Project Desktop app. Now, if I'm not the project manager, then I would basically have a read-only view of the schedule. So my team members, anybody that has access to this Microsoft team would have that. Now, there can be licensing implications for some of this. So later on, if we do a deeper dive, webinar into some of this, we can talk about those specifics. But in general, that's the way it would work. The PM will be able to edit the schedule right here. The team members will be able to view the schedule on this tab. When I go into project documents, this will show me the document library for that particular project. This is another example where you can do some things like pre-populate document templates, things like that you want to standardize on and make sure that the project manager has the latest templates. So we can pre-populate those into this document library. And that's sort of what you're seeing here with the charter, the business case, the customer acceptance form. And then you also have your issue and risk log. Issues and risk are out-of-the-box capabilities in Project Online. So the project team can keep track of these issues, the risk, using these lists. Okay. And then finally, we have Planner. So as I mentioned earlier, Planner is part of that project portfolio management platform. It's meant for simple, light project management, task management. You can create Planner plans separately, not necessarily always through this integration, but it does provide a very easy to use interface for your team members to know what they're supposed to be working on, and then also them providing updates back to you. So you can see when I go to Planner here, all those tasks that we had specified that we want to synchronize with have now been pushed over into Planner. I can see what its due date is, who it's assigned to, all that's coming from the Project Online schedule. And then they're organized into our different buckets. So we have our backlog, Sprint 1, Sprint 2 buckets. Now, I could also look at this Planner plan in different ways. Maybe I want to look at it by who the tasks are assigned to. So now I can see each team member's responsibilities and what the current status of those tasks are. Or if I'm a team member, I could go into here and look at the progress view, which is more of like a Kanban board view, where I could look at what the current status of the task are. And then if I want to go in and grab a task, I can just drag and say, hey, I've started to work on that task. So it's now in progress. Or if I want to mark some other ones as, completed, I could drag and drop and make some updates here. You could also see Deepika went ahead and completed some of her tasks already. Okay. Now,
Neil, sorry, we have a new question from Elena. Does Project for Web have risks and issues?
It is currently, it will soon. Lyra, I don't know if you have a timeline on that, but that is going to be added in the next release, which I think is due any day now.
Yeah, so it's planned for this fiscal year. We don't have an official date yet, but it's definitely planned for this fiscal year.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, and I'll jump right back, because of the Power Platform, even if Project for the Web doesn't have it today, you could add that yourself using the Power Platform. So this is a good example of that, where I've added issues and risk using Power Apps for Project for the Web. So that's a good example of how it can be extended. Even though Microsoft might not have added it today, you could go ahead and add it yourself. All right, so going back to here, the other thing that I could do, this is showing me from a project team perspective what everybody's supposed to be working on and what the current status is. I could go in and filter this and just look at my task. So now I'm just seeing what I'm supposed to be working on. The other thing that you could do is there is a planner app, or they now call it Task by Planner app. So if I go into here, this will give me more of a master to-do list across all my projects. So there you can see our Project Online project that we just created. Those tasks are showing up here. And then also I could pick just that particular project and see all the tasks. Okay, so when I go back to here, if I want to pull those planner updates back into my project schedule, we added a button here called Get Planner Updates. So when I click on this, Project Online is going to go out, look at that planner plan, see what the current status of all those tasks are, and then it's going to update my project schedule. In my demo, it's going to update the % complete here. So it takes a couple minutes to run that automation, but we'll come back to it. If I go back to the Post tab here inside of Teams, one, you can see it automatically added Deepika, and she left a message for me, so I'll give her a thumbs up on that. But it added the rest of my project team as well. So if I go to Manage Team, you can see myself, Deepika, Mahesh have been added automatically. The other thing that it did is it automatically pushed out this little mini project status report so that the project team can get an idea of what the status currently is. And then we have a button to open up the official project status report, which might be done in, say, Power BI. And I'm going to jump to Power BI in a couple minutes. But again, this is all part of using Power Automate to make sure that as we're going through a particular process, it's communicating out, it's pulling data in, pushing data out, doing approvals, things like that. So if I go back to the schedule here.
We have a new question for Nevin. Finally, when Project for the Web through Power App gets more advanced, then when to use Portfolio Project Management Online server versus Power for the Web?
So eventually, Project for the Web is going to supersede Project Online. At a certain point, Microsoft's going to come out with a migration plan to move people from Project Online over to Project for the Web. So again, it's one of those things where Project for the Web is going to continually evolve, and Microsoft's going to continuously add more capabilities to it. You can also use the Power Platform to add your own capabilities to it. But if you don't necessarily want to do that by adding those capabilities further ready, then Project Online is probably the better fit today. But 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it's going to start blurring the lines until Microsoft comes up with a migration plan to move you over completely. Okay. So again, those planner updates are going to come into here. So we would then see any in-progress task will be at 50%, and then any completed task will be marked as 100%. Okay. Now, one thing that I want to do real quick is to jump into Power BI. So with both Project for the Web and Project Online, all of your information is being stored in databases. that we could then run reports against. So if you want to visualize what's happening in your projects, what's happening in your portfolios, what's happening with your resources, Power BI is going to be the part of the Power Platform that allows you to do those kind of reports. So if I go into here and I go into Power BI, this is a set of Power BI reports and dashboards where I can then go in and look at that project online data or look at that project for the web data. And that's really the main benefit of both of those solutions is you have a centralized repository where all that information is being stored. Now you can go in and slice and dice and look at the data in whichever way you want. So for example, this is a portfolio dashboard. And with Power BI, everything is interactive. So for example, if I click on anything, it automatically drills down to that particular area. Or if I pick a particular project, everything will drill down just to that particular project. So again, everything is interactive. Depending on how you build the reports, you can set up different filters so that the person who's using the reports will be able to easily go in and do any kind of filtering that they might want to do. The other nice thing with Power BI is you can set up subscriptions. So if I click on subscribe here, what if I want this report automatically delivered to my executive team the first of the month? I can go in, add a new subscription, specify who's going to receive it, what's the frequency going to be. So I'm going to do monthly on the first of the month, 8 in the morning, and then it goes ahead and it automatically sends it. What it's going to send is a screenshot of the current report with a link to take them into Power BI so they could look at the report themselves. Okay? You can also export to PowerPoint, PDF, or Excel. So if you do want to look at the reports in different ways, or you need to send it out to somebody maybe outside your organization, you also have that capability. But here you can see off to the side as I click through these different reports, there's lots of different ways that you can visualize all that information, whether it's schedule information, the collaboration, the risk issues type information. This is resource availability information. So I have a heat map here. I can see when a resource is being way over allocated, or if I click on a particular resource, what's their workload looking like? Over here, what are they working on? And how many hours each month are they working on it? So again, from a reporting perspective, using Power BI, you're going to have a lot of ways to visualize this. Now, depending on, this is a good example. Project for the Web doesn't currently have a timesheet capability. We have a Power App that we've built to allow customers using Project for the Web do timesheets. Project Online has a built-in timesheet module. So if you are collecting how many hours a person worked on a particular task per week, things like that, you can easily do that in Project Online. With Project for the Web, you'll have to use a Power App for that today. But what this is showing you is a roll-up of that information, right? So as we're collecting those time entries in Power BI, we could then go in and start doing reporting on it. This is a project status report. Risk and issues at this project level. We could do budget versus actuals. So one thing I did not have time to get into is the cost tracking. So we do have a cost tracking Power App that we'll have a future webinar on. We'll get into more detail on how you would want to manage your actuals and your budgets. You could even do mapping and visualization. So if your projects have some kind of geographic component, Power BI will help you visualize that as well. And then down here further, we could do timesheet compliance. So have people submitted their timesheet? Who hasn't submitted it? Has it been approved? Has it been rejected? Here you could focus in on different time frames and see exactly what's going on. So you can see here we have a lot of timesheets that haven't been created yet, 4 that are in progress, 71 that have been completed so far. and then timesheet trends. Okay, so again, with Power BI, we can then take all that data that you're collecting and then build out reports and visualizations depending on how you would want to see it or how your organization would want to see it. Any other questions? Like I said, I know I had a lot to cover in a short amount of time, but we're going to have breakout webinars as well, and we'll do deeper dives into each one of these. If not, I'm going to hand it back to you, Joanne.
We actually have some questions. So we
Okay.
have a question from Elena. Does Project for the Web connect to Teams in the same way you have just demonstrated for Project Online?
It does, yeah. My demo blew up a little bit on that for some reason. But essentially, inside of Teams, you do have a Project Teams app, which you can go in and you can select. And then you could add it manually this way. But you can also automate it, similar to what I showed you with Project Online. For some reason, my automate flow did not go through this morning. But you could do it either way. You could either do it manually or do it as part of your automation.
Navi is asking if Power App, same as Power BI, which already exists, or Power BI is under the Power App.
They're separate products as part of the Power Platform. So if I understood the question correctly, so Power Apps and the Power Platform, I'm sorry, Power Apps and Power BI are both part of the Power Platform. Power BI has its own separate license, and there's different variations of that licensing. Power Apps and Power Automate, there is a base license that's included in your Office 365 license. But if you want to connect to what they consider premium services, so for example, if you need to connect Power Automate to, say, Salesforce or Oracle, things like that, they're considered premium connectors. So there would be additional licensing to get those premium connectors.
We also have two questions from Goran. So the first one is, does the app take care of the remaining time on the task level that will eventually influence the budget? And the second is, do we see the difference between initial budget and current budget, and also current timeline of the project versus initial timeline?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first part of that question, I think that was related more to the Planner integration. So Planner doesn't necessarily capture too much detail. So it basically captures the % complete of the task. So if you had an 8-hour task, someone says they've started it, it's 50% complete, it's going to assume, Project Online is going to assume, there's 4 hours remaining. So if you are managing hours and a budget to those hours, you may not want to link the Planner task updates to your % complete. You might want to just have a separate status so the PM knows what's in progress or currently worked on, what's been complete, and then either through timesheets or the PM updating the schedule, you'll be more accurate in exactly how many hours were spent on that task. Sorry, Joanne, what was the second question?
Yeah, sure. The second question was, do we see the difference between initial budget and current budget, and also current timeline of the project versus initial timeline of the project? Yeah,
so this is a great question. It's a good example of Project for the Web versus Project Online today, all right? So in order to do something like that, you have to use what's called a baseline, okay? So in Project for the Web, for Project Online, if I were to go into a particular project, you will see a set baseline function here. And what that does is it takes a snapshot of your current project so that as the project starts being managed, you have the snapshot and you can compare against that to see what your variances are, what was originally planned versus what's happening today. So when I go into here, you can see that set baseline. Project for the web today does not have the baselining capability. So in a case like that, that's on Microsoft's roadmap. Eventually, it's going to have that. But when you're looking at the solution, you need to take some of those requirements into account to see which tool is the right tool for you today. But that's a really good example of that. But once you have that baseline set in Project Online, from a Power BI perspective, you can do exactly what you're asking for. You'd be able to see the comparison to the original plan baseline versus what's actually happening today. So we over budget, under budget, we late, we early, things like that.
We have another question from Natasha. Where best to store project outputs? Teams? People seems to always struggle finding stuff. Any tips? Thanks a lot.
Yeah, that's a good question. One thing that we tend to do is, and again, this will vary a little bit depending on if you're using Project Online or Project for the web. Project Online will have its own SharePoint site for each project, where you can, for example, here with the document library, whatever the deliverables are for that project, the documents, you can then upload them into this document library. Notice, we're not necessarily saying save them in the Microsoft Teams files area. And the reason for that is working with different customers, we found that from an archiving and searching type capability and kind of keeping your data organized, it's a little bit better to keep it with the project and Project Online than in all separate Microsoft Teams. So when we set this up, when we do training, part of the training is to communicate to the team members, use the project documents tab for your working documents or your final deliverables. And then the files tab really shouldn't be used. It will still be used for some things, like for example, when I click into here, if you have this integrated with your email, if anybody's sending you emails that go right to your team, they're going to be stored here automatically. That's the way it is out of the box. We can't change that. But all the working documents, all the final deliverables of the project should be stored under the document library.
Thank you, Neil. So we would like to share that that we were very excited answering your question and having all to be here. And also that we're going to be sending a survey for all of you, since we mentioned that we couldn't touch all the points in a lot of detail. So we're going to be asking you which are the main areas of interest so that we can schedule further webinars and as well invite you. We're going to be also sharing the recording of today, and we're going to keep in touch in case you have any question or in case you would like to schedule any one-to-one session to go into more detail focusing your organization. So please, if you have any question, we don't want you to leave with questions. So please feel free to reach us out. We're going to be happy to keep in touch. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye.